Hey hunting family, you are tuning into the Tracks and Tackle podcast, brought to you by Menser Outdoors.
Hey there hunting family, it's time to give a shout out to a company that's been keeping our communities moving since 1995. I'm talking about Interstate Garage Doors. For nearly 3 decades, Interstate Garage Doors has been the go-to choice for comprehensive garage door services in South Central PA, as well as the surrounding Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia areas. And get this, they're not just any company. They're veteran-owned and family-operated, with a proud history of serving both residential and commercial clients. Their professional technicians are the real deal, offering top-notch installations from industry-leading manufacturers and expert repairs for all garage door makes and models. From residential garage doors to overhead doors and openers, Interstate Garage Doors does it all. So whether you're a hardworking contractor building homes or a homeowner looking for service or just needing an upgrade, you can trust Interstate Garage Doors to get the job done right. And hey, they're not just experts in garage doors, they're also experts in giving back to the community, sponsoring podcasts like Tracks and Tackle. Are you ready to experience the Interstate difference for yourself? If so, here's a little something extra for our loyal podcast listeners. Use promo code Tracks and Tackle when you contact Interstate so they know you heard about them here. Just visit igdoors.com today to get an estimate or request service, or give them a call at 717-263-3150. Don't wait. Take the first step towards a smoother, more secure garage today. Hey there, hunting family. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tracks and Tackle. Today we got a special treat for you as we deep dive into the world of turkey calls with an incredible guest who's passionate about his craft. Joining us in the studio is Jason Rohrer and his son Ethan. Jason's a true aficionado with a fervent love for turkey hunting and a knack for crafting his own calls. But Jason isn't just any turkey caller. He's got a collection that would make any hunter green with envy. And he's even had the privilege to rub some elbows with legends in the turkey hunting industry. Today, Jason's here to share his wealth of knowledge with us, from the different types of calls to the intricate art of using them effectively. We're in for a masterclass. But it's not just about the calls themselves. Jason embodies the values of honor and respect, not just for the game he hunts, but also the community of turkey call makers who have influenced his own journey. And that's what makes today's episode so special. So it's not about the calls, it's about the person behind them and the traditions they uphold. So grab your gear, settle in. We're about to embark on a journey of calling adventures with Jason Rohrer. Stay tuned, folks. You're not going to want to miss it.
Hey folks, welcome back. Tracks and Tackles. We've got another riveting episode here. We are with Jason Rohrer and his son here, Ethan. They're turkey hunting enthusiasts, they're call makers, call collectors, avid outdoorsmen, and they just love to be out in the woods when they can. Excited to have them on, learn a little bit here about turkey call making and a little bit of what is out there to learn from. So, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to have you guys on. You know, we love turkey here, and we love talking about the outdoors, so it's good to have you two on and just take some time here and get behind the camera. So, a question I don't think we ever really got into, but, you know, what started your journey with hunting?
I'd have to say my father and my grandfather started that. I remember just being a little kid, 6, 7 years old, you know, chasing rabbits at my grandfather's farm. Moved on to deer hunting. Had a couple bad experiences missing my first couple years, but once I shot that first one, you know, it just excelled from there. I just found peace being in the woods, you know.
Yeah.
Like it was like a tranquility type thing. Just, all the nature. You never knew what you were going to stumble upon or, see or experience, So it just became a passion. I enjoyed that time spent with my family, my father and uncles and stuff like that.
Yeah, just memories made. You can't replace them. But yeah, I can remember mistakes. I still make mistakes, as we all do up to this year. But you're younger. It seems like a lot more frustrating. But there's been years where I wanted to throw the gun in the trash. But,
you're harder on yourself.
Yep,
I think
they're the toughest critics. But it keeps you going out when you have a little bit of success and you have fun when you're out in the woods. But
absolutely.
Yeah, you guys love turkey, and when I got to meet you guys ultimately, it was probably about a year and a half ago, and I was talking to Ethan here, and turkey. Once the turkey calls work, you give out a couple yelps, and then you hear a big response. Well, I learned Ethan here likes the turkey hunt.
Oh yeah.
And so we started to have some small talk, and then the big gobbler came in, and then me and you started talking, and
I remember that day he come home and was like, "Dad, the guy at my physical therapy, he wants to talk to you about turkeys." I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely," He was all excited about it.
Yeah, so it's a blast looking back here. But I think as I talk to you more, just learn about your passion for call making and call collecting. How did you get into that?
I can't per se exactly. No, it was long before that. What really got me into it, I guess like 89, 90, I got, basically, I mean, we fall hunted when I was a kid prior to that. Never really knew much about calling, or knowing what to do in the fall other than we'd break flocks up, stumbled across them. And, if we got into a turkey, we got into a turkey. It was always like, you look forward to that for Thanksgiving. Back then you could, shoot them prior to Thanksgiving. And then I ran into a guy at a job one time, and I kept hearing him on this mouth call, running this mouth call nonstop. To most people,
practice when you can.
Would get on their nerves. But to me, it was like, man, I need to go talk to this guy, So I got to talking to him, and he's like, "Did you ever spring gobbler hunt?" I was like, never tried it. He's like, "Man," he said, you gotta go out with me sometime." So we went out, place over in Perry County, some farm he knew, and literally I'll never forget. I watched this gobbler. I mean, it basically came across two fields, crossed a hard road, under a barbed wire fence, and then hung up in a yard or in another field about 85, 90 yards away from us. Would never come no closer. But man, it just did something to me, and I'm like, I will never not do this,
Right.
Like I'm just glued on this. And then I started finding interest in how the way calls were made, what made them kind of click to get the sound they were producing out of them and things like that. So I just started buying calls, not to tear them apart or anything like that. Just, every call has a different sound to them, no matter what you're using. So it just started buying from like, there was a catalog. It's still a website now that you can buy from, but it was called Midwest. So I started buying, calls from people here and there out of that book. And then I started finding out about all these custom call makers, like I've just started researching, people from Pennsylvania, and just found out, because I was always passionate about Pennsylvania call makers. So I just started trying to focus on collecting calls from that older generation, like stuff that really wasn't on the market anymore, but it was still out there. So I just started going from there, and then it just got crazy. Like I fell in love with custom calls and all the uniqueness about them, and just the way people designed them, and it just fascinated. It still does. I mean,
Right.
It's it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. I enjoy it that much. And there's not a day goes by I don't play some type of turkey call. I mean, it's they're everywhere in my house, so it's kind of hard not to focus on picking one up and running it.
Right. Yeah, you can't walk by one and not want to touch it. But
No.
it's pretty neat, kind of just where you go about it, because we like to say, you got bit by the bug.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're hooked.
Right.
So for me, last summer is bass fishing, and then a little before that it's turkey. But bass fishing you can fish all the time, basically, besides the winter when it's cold.
Right.
So talking to you about turkey and getting to talk about it more and more gets you, that itch to get back out. So get more into turkey hunting because from youth I never really did much of it. I went on a time or two with Dad, but it wasn't anything special. We were a big deer hunting family, so now that I'm getting out more turkey hunting, and it's warmer, it's nice to get out. You can move around. You can make noises. I'm getting more passionate about it. My call collection, it's going to stem from you guys, but maybe you're going to turn me into a little bit of a monster.
And there is no rehab for it, I can tell you that.
I'll tell you. So I'll jump in here because what you said about like getting started, like doing fall turkey and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I grew up not being a turkey hunter, and I hunt turkeys, but I'm not a turkey hunter like some guys like yourself are.
Yeah.
But there's something about because I was going archery hunting one fall with my family. And where our cabin is, there's a mountain road that sort of winds up through to get to our cabin on the top of the hill, but there's a gate at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You got to unlock the gate, and there's a flock of birds at the gate, and they were walking up the hill. And I knew right where they were headed, which maybe 200 yards from where our camp was. So, we whined and got everything and got up to camp and had the shotguns with us. So we went and we broke up that group. Mm-hmm. And once you got them busted up, then it's fun.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to reconvene and things like that. And that was my first experience. I shot a hen in the fall. Yep. And I thought I was something else. Like these turkey hunters tell me how hard it is. This isn't that hard. But since then, going out and learning a little bit about the sport, trying to figure gobblers out. There really is. You study your prey. Oh yeah. And you got to convince them that you're the best looking hen in the woods that they haven't met yet.
Right.
In the springtime, but it's interesting how you get one exciting moment, and you do get bit by the bug.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. And we all get started some way, but I didn't have somebody, I'm sure, Ethan, you had your dad take you out and show you some of this stuff. I really didn't have that. I just got lucky one day, fell into a flock of birds and got them busted up. And then, a bunch of us had a lot of fun trying to get them rounded up.
I was kind of the same way. I'll never forget the first spring gobbler I ever shot on my own. I was new to it myself, I had a bird that was above me. I was actually down on another logging road, and he was strutting back and forth on this road above me. Well, had I known, I would have never called to that turkey. I would have circled up around that bird. Got on the same level as him. No, I sit down below him, and I'm calling. This bird's gobbling. I watched him for probably a half hour, 45 minutes. Just out of shotgun range.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? Like, what do I got to do to kill this turkey? So I just shut up. I didn't say nothing. And it was like a half an hour. Now, he was still up there, not gobbling as much as he was. And fortunately, he come down the hill. I seen him coming, and I was ready, and I shot. And I remember jumping up. I was so happy I got my first turkey all on my own. I go out running through the woods, heading back towards my parents' house. And I get out there's like 3 logging roads that come together. And they all meet out on this one point. And I'm like, oh no, I left my turkey calls lay at the tree. Well, instead of like hiding my turkey under some leaves or a log or, nope, I carried that thing the whole way back through the woods and grabbed my calls and back out there. I went.
How we forgot to cover for your one gun when we were.
That scope cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever find it?
Yep, I got it. Yeah. Remember, it fell off. That was on your gun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. You get excited out in the forest, and you have a little bit of excitement, and our brains turn to mush.
Oh yeah.
We've all been there. I think it's pretty neat that you learn the art of patience, which it takes the avid hunter a while to learn that lesson, and even the experienced hunter to learn that lesson. But it even means more because you have quite the arsenal of calls and the amount that you have collected. So,
and I do have an arsenal, and I try to change them up. Like, I don't always carry the same calls. Now, there is a couple of specific calls that I do carry with me usually. But, like, if I'm buying them, I like to hunt with them at least once and try to get some, Now, I'll never be able to do that with the amount of calls I have, but I enjoy, and the call makers, like, you get that conversation with them, even me, just a small time little tinkering around with calls. I remember last summer, a guy from down south sent me a picture with one of my wing bones laying on his gobbler, and it was like, man, that's cool,
awesome.
Like, this guy used my call and killed that bird with that. And there's been other guys since then, but you just get that feel good about your what you've done,
you contributed to that.
It's pretty special. And like I said, the call makers, I think, enjoy that too. Like for instance, Mike. Like, usually when I'm hunting with Ethan, I try to use Mike's calls just because, Mike and I are so close.
Right.
But to me, it's extra special if I can send pictures with Ethan and his turkey using, what we call him Uncle Mike as his call. And Mike throws him on his webpage.
Yeah, it's just awesome to support each other and promote each other. The call making world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We as a community, one of the things that we always talk about is how do we promote one another and cheer one another on.
Yeah.
Because some guys are just so competitive, and I'm competitive by nature.
Yep.
But I want to win whenever I go out and I'm going up against whether it's an animal or any type of sport or whatever.
Yep.
Want to be successful, but how do we, as a hunting community, really encourage one another and press one another on? So one of the things I want to do is I want to get photos before we leave. Don't let me forget to take pictures of these interesting calls because yes, it's a functional tool.
Yeah.
But it's also a piece of art.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you said earlier, no two calls are the same.
No. They all, to me, I have a pretty good ear. I mean, I'm not the best caller in the world, I will say that, but I know what turkey I like. I know what turkey is, you know what I mean? Now, can I produce that all the time? No, but I do enough that, like I was saying earlier, I think for me, calling less is more. I mean, I've heard, you get out there and you hear these guys and birds just started gobbling on the roost, and this guy over here is blowing an owl hooter, and then he's blowing a crow call, and then he starts cutting on his pot call, and that bird's going to answer him, but he's still up in the tree. 9 times out of 10, that turkey's kind of like, I look at it as they live in the woods 365 days a year.
Their neighborhood.
I'm in the woods a couple, months out of the year. They know what's going on, I mean, I've been fortunate, not saying that I don't sneak and kill turkeys out from under somebody, but I've been in spots where I've been above them turkeys. They were down here, like I said, going crazy, like they've never killed a turkey in their life. And I've made 1 or 2 calls and have killed that turkey.
Legendary.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think you can overcall a lot. I think a lot of guys do overcall. If you spend enough time in the woods, especially hunting turkeys, you figure things out like that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just like anything else, any other subject that you study.
Oh, absolutely.
The more that you understand how that bird works, like you're sharing your story about that first bird or one of those birds that, it was coming.
Yeah.
And when you actually witness, I heard a guy tell me one time when I first got started, he said, if it's that bird's day to die, his time's up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there are days where they just are not going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
It has to.
Oh yeah, you feel like giving up. There's been days, I mean, I spent days and hours in the woods trekking, and couldn't even find a gobble, and then you go back out a day later and it's like, what the heck? Somebody, just what they do to them,
They just stop the birds. Yeah. So, so tell me a little bit about how you got into making the calls. Like, I guess your first call. What did you start out with? I mean,
well, I had a guy that I met, and I guess it was 2016. His name was Lee Bowles, and it was one of those things where I got invited to just go to a barbecue restaurant with some turkey call guys, just like a group like us.
yeah,
We get down there, and I run into this guy, and he was in a wheelchair. I never met the guy in my life, and I remember he got out of his car and introduced himself, and I introduced myself, and he was like, "Come on, let's go in. We'll have a beer." I was like, "Well," I said, "I would, but I don't drink." I said, "But I'll go in with you." And I kind of was helping him along in the chair, holding the door, whatever, and we just started talking, like there at the restaurant, had lunch, whatever. Well, he had said about he made turkey calls, and I'm like, "Oh, what do you make?" And he's like, "Oh, I make wing bones," and they call them Jordan style calls, for a guy named Charles Jordan, who basically, I think it was McKinley's book. He writes about they take two pieces of river cane, and then usually they would use like a hen bone for a mouthpiece, and then he would wrap it in like sinew, keep it airtight at those joints. Well, Lee made these types of calls, just a little different style, I mean, there's a lot of guys that do it now still. But he said, "Well, I'll make one of these for you, and I'll send it to you." And I'm like, "I never played one of them, And he's like, "Well," he said, "I'll kind of go over with you what to do." So we just started talking, after we had left the barbecue over the phone and things. And man, it turned into a friendship that, I was never expecting,
Yeah.
I mean, he had some health issues, not stemming from just being in the wheelchair, but there was a time, I guess that December, he had sent me a call already. We just, continued to talk over the phone. Well, I knew he had to go in. He had to have some type of surgery. Like I said, I only known him for like 3 or 4 months. Well, it was Christmas Day, and we got up, Rebecca and I, with the kids, and
Went through hiking.
yeah, I said about, all right, well, what other than the kids just opening the rest of their gifts, or not opening the rest of their gifts, but playing with them, I said, well, let's run down and see Lee, and I'll never forget, like, he was just so taken aback that I took the time on Christmas Day to go visit a guy that I really never even knew. And yeah, I mean, he even told me that many a times, So we just became really, really close. Like, I mean, we'd talk every day pretty much. And then one day he said, "Hey," he goes, "I'm going to teach you how to make wing bones and cane calls." And I was like, "No, like, I don't want to do that, dude. I just want to buy them, And he's like, "No," he goes, "Man, you can trade them, like other call makers will trade you and things like that." So it kind of piqued an interest in me, And so he come down one day, and we set out in my driveway and in my garage, and he just basically showed me the basics from skinning them out to boiling them off, scraping all the gunk out of them.
Yeah.
Didn't give me like specifics on, how much to sand off, how much to let it there. Kind of gave me a rough idea, but it's all, to me, I think it's still all trial and error, because there's so many variations in the bone.
Well, that's what I was gonna. I mean, that's one of the questions I got rolling in my head here. As I listen to you talk, Jason. Even though like there are specific types of calls that you make.
Yep.
There's got to be like a ton of variation between, because there's no two bones that are exactly like, no two calls that are exactly like.
The woods aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's more dense woods.
The way you do it, it's just the way the next guy does it might be slightly modified.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. So it just he started teaching me how to do that, and then he showed me how to put like Well, I have some examples here.
Yeah, break them out, man. That's why.
There's 3-piece bone call, just like what's in your arm, same things in a turkey.
So fascinating to look at because, like we said, just such an art just to realize that, you got to process that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think I look back as, like I was saying earlier about back in the Indian times, not that I'm no Indian, but I'm fascinated with all the history about, anything that I can find out about history-wise when it comes to that. Like I've seen guys have pictures of wing bones they dug up.
Wow.
Like artifacts that now they're not, of course, together. There's like maybe the midsection or like the end bell, but just to see that stuff is like just fascinating. And then this is an example of a what they call a Jordan style call. It's just 2 pieces of cane, pieced together. Used the 243 casing.
Let's see that.
And then a mouthpiece, which I use snow goose bone, which it makes just as good of a mouthpiece, if not better, in my opinion, than a regular hen bone. And these are more, I can get more of them than I can a hen bone.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these guys down south, they can't even get hen bones because they're not really allowed to shoot hens in the fall like we are here in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, and then it just kind of, I don't do it as a job or not. I mean, I probably have some guys right now that are like, hey man, where's my call? It's been close to a year, but I do it when I'm free. Yeah. And like, I mean, like now we're busy with my daughter's cheer and,
summer, yeah.
It's summer.
Family's important.
Yeah. So, and I never wanted to turn it into something like I felt obligated that I had to have it done by a certain time or, I don't know. I think I have 3 at home right now that I know the ones I got a guy that he's a big Clemson Tiger fan. So I'm going to wrap it in orange and maybe put something else on it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and that's, then my buddy Mike Lapp, he's basically most of his calls are on there. Just I brought some variations of stuff he makes, but he got me started on making a scratch box, which I just spent a day with him one day down at his house, and we spent the whole day cutting lumber.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, like I mean, I've known Mike for probably about the last 6-7 years, and I never considered how much work is in just cutting lumber and pieces. Now he makes a variety of calls, but I mean, just like box calls, I mean, if you make however many box calls a year, you got to cut them blanks out. You got to cut the lids.
You're making your own parts.
Yeah. Yep. Everything.
Yeah.
So like I said, we tinkered around that day, and he sent me home with a bunch of lumber, and he's like, "Here, go home and make scratch boxes." And I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I'll try and figure it out." So it's just a walnut striker, a black limbo box body. This is what they would call a Cost style scratch box, made basically like the style Neil Cost would have made back in the day.
So that's basically what you got there is like hollow box with a little bit of space for the air to exit.
Yep. There's like this is your soundboard. Yep. And you can thin them down, get a little bit of different sound out of them, things like that.
I was gonna say like the thickness of that along with the friction.
Yep, or even the striker itself can make a difference or make a difference.
Crazy because I didn't realize this world was out there.
Well, this is blowing my mind here because this is definitely where my paper is.
Yeah, turkey call. I think of the slate.
To think something, I mean, I've killed a bunch of turkeys with a scratch box. I actually have a cedar scratch box a guy built for me back, I think it was like 92. And it's just, I mean, I carried in one of the old plastic soap containers.
Right.
You put it right in your shirt pocket. But man, the turkeys just love it. There's something about it that, they can't resist it.
And that's another thing. Like when you find something that works, it's like it's like fishing. You find that bait that works. It's
Yeah.
hard to go off to something else.
It is,
you
yeah.
know?
But there's times where, like the last couple of years, I got more into hunting with the yelpers and wing bones and cane calls and trumpets and things like that. And they actually say that using a call like that, that sound will actually travel further than like a long box or a pot call. You would think with a paddle call, everybody thinks of paddle calls, which they are mostly made for locating. I mean, you'll kill turkeys with them, but they're loud. You know what I mean? But they've actually done studies that proves that sound coming out of that trumpet, which it's basically like a horn. So it's as it's exiting that barrel, I guess it's sending it further sound waves wise, than what you would think on a regular pod or a box call would sound. But I've noticed turkeys respond to these like, well, I wouldn't say instantly, but there's something about them.
Take a liking to it.
Yeah. I wish I would have started hunting with these years ago. I mean,
They might have to change their tactics.
Yeah.
In the woods, you're opening up a whole new world to us here, Jason.
and it's with these. I mean, like I said, it was like 2016. Now I've ran wing bones, but as far as a trumpet or sounding half decent on them, I never thought I'd ever figure it out. But I stayed with it, and I'm still no professional.
Yeah.
Like there's guys out there. I mean, they sound like pure turkey. I do just enough to convince them that I am a turkey.
Yeah. Every turkey, sounds. They know that every turkey knows what it's looking to hear. So just real quick, like for a guy like me that I grew up, started on like a box call, but I use a slate right now. I've used glass and. But just take me through like the different styles that you got laid out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And walk us through that.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, this is like this one's a little unique because they would call this a trumpet, a turned trumpet. But the guy who built this, if you can see, it actually it's like hexagonal.
Yeah.
So it was still machined on a lathe like that, but it's just, something unique and different. Most guys just turn a smooth barrel the whole way.
It's like a chess piece.
When you're showing me that there too, I'm just thinking if I'm public land, I see a guy walking around with this thing. I'm like, where's this guy?
Well, I do this like I'll drive down through Carlisle and I'm in the car, doing like that, and I know people think what the heck is that dude smoking something? Or, what's he doing? Because I do get a lot of weird looks.
Right.
There's the scratch box. Like I said, they've been around forever. Just basically a striker, and that's your playing surface is that, and then that's what produces the sound. And then you can move that. Yeah, make it higher or lower. This is just another. This is basically like a trumpet also. That's a spring buckhorn with buffalo horn mouthpiece.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's
a
nice,
really unique one right there.
That's a nice piece.
Yeah.
This is what they would consider a tongue call. This is this is the body of the call, and then this is your playing surface.
Now, are all your strikers wood, or do you use different?
No, I have strikers that are actually made from plexiglass. I have strikers that are made from corn cob and have like a jake bone in them.
All right.
I have carbon fiber strikers that have like antler on the end of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have all kinds of strikers.
It goes back. It goes back to like what works.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I have, not that I'm saying this to be like, but I collect so much that like, there's times I forget things that I have,
Sure.
like I try to inventory everything, but then I'll be, looking around one day and I'll be like, oh man, I forgot I had that call,
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, listen, I got a wooden striker and a carbon striker, and I'll lose them in my turkey bag. Like, I don't know where I put it.
Yeah.
So, like, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, like I said, carrying like them wind instruments, that's all you got to carry, really. I mean, I can throw that around my neck.
Yep.
I
Not going
mean,
anywhere.
just carry it under my shirt and don't have to worry about,
Well,
not that I don't worry about losing it.
Sure. Well, it reminds me.
Here, buddy.
It reminds me of guys that are duck hunters and goose hunters, and they got multiple calls around the neck.
Yep.
And that's sort of what it reminds me of, these air instruments where you're blowing into them.
No, you don't blow on them. Actually, you draw air through them.
You pull it.
Yeah. Yep. It's like I heard a friend of mine say one time, it's almost like drinking a milkshake. Like slurping that milkshake through a straw, because we'll go out to eat and Ethan and my daughter, they'll sit down and the first thing they do is they grab them little sturdy straws and they'll sit there and start playing. Yeah. And honestly, you can kill a turkey with it, but I'll throw it. Yeah. Bud, come back over here and sit. I'll just do like some basic stuff. And I'm just, a lot of people think you got to really do that. If the call's made good, it don't take much air at all. I mean, you learn to breathe through your nose, draw through your mouth, but they're very unique. I mean, there's something about them.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I had a cabinet made. I think I showed it to you. But I had a cabinet made out of some old barnwood from a guy, and it holds 69 calls. And when I had it done, I wanted it to kind of resemble an outhouse, so we made it real skinny and tall, put like a metal roof on it, and then I had a piece of glass in the front door, and I had a crescent moon etched on it, and of course I put LEDs in it and everything, so. Like that whole cabinet is nothing but those air operated calls. And that's just what I can fit in there.
Display case.
Yeah.
Do you find that you have a hard time with your own personally made calls using? You have all this collection. I know you talked about, tribute to the call maker.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Nah, not really. I mean, I've killed turkeys with that wing bone right there.
All right. That's gotta be
so
too.
I use my calls, but I mean, it's one of them things where I like using my other buddies' calls too.
You prefer to use a buddy's call versus
or somebody? There's a guy that builds trumpets like that, and the other year, it's actually made out of pink ivory.
Okay.
The wood is pink ivory, but it's pink. I mean, it's like a bright pink, and they call it a pink ivory. Well, I got it like right before I went to Maryland turkey hunting last year, and I got on these birds. There was 5 gobblers we put to roost that night, and I hit them that morning with the box call, and they responded to it, and they came a ways, but I couldn't finish them off. I felt they were a little too close to be getting real loud with that box call, so I just pulled that trumpet out from under my shirt, and I kind of just tucked it down and baffled it a little bit off. And I made like 2 clucks. Now it was like 10, 15 minutes later, but next thing you know, I see them starting to sneak up through the woods, trying to circle around me. Well, the second one didn't make it. So, but of course, when I like to take pictures and find unique
Sure.
spots and things like that. So I ended up throwing the trumpet in the picture and sent it to the guy. And, I think I know they enjoy that type of thing too, because, they'll post pictures of it or, things like that. They share it with other people. So,
Like what I like hearing is it sounds like you guys are a tight niche and
yeah,
building each other up, kind of what you highlighted in the beginning. Just trying to highlight each other and.
yeah. Me personally, I mean, yeah, I know a lot of deer hunters and things. A lot of people get excited about deer hunting and things like that, but I don't think you'll find a better group of people than turkey hunters, honestly. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's not bad eggs in the bunch,
There's always
there's
outliers.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm friends with a guy. He does a thing on Facebook. It's called Turkey Call to Action, and all it is like, say there was a girl that had cancer, a brain tumor, something like that. Well, they reached out to call makers, donate a call. We're going to raise money for this little girl and help her parents out and things like that. You would not believe the people and the money they were able to help give back to this little girl's family. And, so it's like, that's giving me chills thinking about it, but it's like, where else do you find things like that? Just the generosity and the heartfeltness that these people.
I say the pendulum swings both ways, Jason. You know what I mean? Like the good to the bad. Like you said, there's always going to be some bad apples out there.
Yeah.
And like that's just the world we live in.
Oh yeah.
And there's some people out there give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah.
And that's great. But what I think we talked about this before we were rolling and recording. Like attracts like.
Oh yeah.
And you got. If you're good natured, good heart, I think people that appreciate the outdoors, hunters, huntresses, like we're God fearing people, most of us.
Right. Yeah.
We're most likely. Speak for myself. We were raised, we were mentored, we were taught right from wrong.
Yes.
We got some sort of moral compass.
Yep.
And because of that. Yeah, you do esteem other people higher than yourself a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that's a beautiful thing about the sport, because even with we were talking on an episode, I don't know, a few episodes ago, where some people broke into a cabin and they stole some mounts and some furs and things like that.
Yeah,
you're going to have those type of people in the world, but that's not who I run around with.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not who I swap stories with.
Right.
And I hear you saying the same thing. You've got a good group out there that you're networked with.
Yep.
And, so that's, giving back and sharing what you got to share. Like even us asking you to come on and teach us a little bit.
Oh, I was happy.
I
was more than happy when he mentioned about it. I thought, heck yeah, I'd love to do something.
We just need a reason to get together and hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and anything involves turkey calls, I'm all part of.
Right. Yeah, it just just reaching out, almost whether it's asking for help or just saying, hey, it just goes a long way. But yeah, just over the fall, like I don't want to blow this guy's phone up, but it's getting closer to turkey, and then it started coming around. It's like I gotta text them, and then here we are, and I know our relationship's only going to grow.
Oh yes, yep. Well, that kind of reminds me of a story. Call making friend of mine, when he first started getting into it, he had broken a box call that he had, and he thought, well, I can build one of these. And he said he went to the sportsman show and he tried talking to a guy about, helping him out, getting him involved in building a box call. And the first guy really didn't want nothing much to do with it. He was like, you'll never make it, blah, blah, blah. And he went to another guy, and they became really good friends. Well, they had a conversation that day, and the call maker, he told him, he said, look, he said, go home, try it out. He said, if you have any questions, give me a call. And my buddy said, man, he goes, I bet he regrets ever telling me that. He said, because I called him every day for like 2 months till I figured, trying to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I think the turkey call maker community, there's just such a heart they have. you know. I mean, they've done things for Ethan, you know. I remember back when he had like his first or second eye surgery, they were calling me, sending me, you know, hey, I want to send a call to Ethan, blah blah blah, because they knew I was into it.
Yeah.
He had already killed a turkey or two, and I'm like, I mean, I was so overwhelmed by it, like I felt like I need to do something back for them, you know, like it was becoming not too much, but like I just felt like I almost felt like I was taking advantage of them people. You know what I mean?
You just have to reciprocate.
And then the guy, he told me one time, you know, because I was always like, hey, what can I do? I'll pay you for it. You know, I never wanted nothing for free. And the guy told me one time, he said, look, man, he goes, if they want to give that to your son or you, he's like, accept it and let it be. He said, because I think sometimes you might upset them or insult them by them wanting to do that for you. So I just stopped, you know, I mean, I tell them, thank you, appreciate what you've done. But I've just learned not to, you know, if they want to give them something, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and, you know, let them, that's something they wanted to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? It took me a while to realize that was
forward moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people just like speak the language of giving gifts too. You know, like you like to give gifts.
Oh yeah, he's real well at that. I mean,
yeah.
Even with his sister, he'll go to Speedway with me, you know, and he'd be like, "Dad, we gotta get Sissy something," you know.
Well, thinking of other people, yeah.
But then he complains sometimes of her because she don't pay it back at times.
He wants
you know?
reciprocation there too. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean that's really, you know, the heart of what the community piece to this, you know, what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you said, you know, you didn't want, when you got into making calls, you didn't want it to be a job.
No.
You want, and that's what we're doing there too, right? Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I was going to say, you know, that's part of the, you know, what we do here is, you know, we're just trying to make memories, hang out together, and
enjoy.
If it ever becomes a job, you know, the podcasting and the recording and the editing and stuff, we'll probably quit.
Yeah.
But as long as we're hanging out with one another, making memories with each other, we're meeting, you know, guys
different
like you.
people.
You know, like I'm introducing him to people I know. He's bringing in, you know, folks that he knows.
Yep.
And we're learning something too.
Right.
You know, I think I'm a believer that you can learn something from every person you meet.
Oh, absolutely.
You can learn good stuff and you can learn not good stuff too, you know.
Yeah.
But I've learned probably, I say like a lot of the things that I learned by doing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because then it sticks
a
with
mistake
you.
It
sticks with you. Like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yep.
You know, but at the end of the day, the networking, camaraderie, the community, that's what we're all about. And we're just trying to document the memories. I was just telling Jason, like, if this ever became like a job, we'd stop doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
Fun, you know, just a straight conversation.
No, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, we're in a small town. You get to sit and talk about. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people, but how often do you get to sit and really like talk about what you enjoy doing, or
you have to make time
you're
to do
collecting.
it. You know?
Yep.
So like
captured what we talk about, what, you know, our logbook
right
up at camp. You know, every time we go up to the cabin, we, you know, write down what happened, what went on.
Yep.
Some truth in that, not some truth sometimes.
Yeah.
But, we're just almost catching an audio version now. You know, the template. Your kids will be able to look back on it when they get older, and it's going to be out there.
Well, that's why I'm so passionate about getting him. And my daughter, she's killed a turkey, but she got into the cheer, and it's you know, not such a big thing. And it does break my heart that she doesn't want to spend as much time in the woods, but him, he's all about it. I mean, he never
follow your passion.
Yeah, he never complains about going.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to go out looking for mushrooms, and you know, we use that as time to scout for turkey sign and things like that too. So I like being outdoors.
Yeah, can't beat it.
So your expertise, I'm going to pick your brain here a little bit, right? Your expertise on turkeys, a lot of like where we deer hunt is mountainous.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, from what I understand and what I've been told is you really want to get out and do a field. Now, I know that's not always the case, but mountain versus field.
What I'd rather hunt? I prefer to hunt the mountain.
Really?
Yeah. Field birds kick my butt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes. Now,
So my confidence just increased.
now the
Last
place
guy was telling me
the place I have for him.
Yeah.
Well, for both the kids actually, but I used to hunt it years ago. Well, it got sold, and I wasn't sure I was ever going to be able to hunt it again. But when I went back to talk to the new owner, I told him, I said, look, I just want it for my kids. Like I swear to you, I will not hunt that property. I want to do it so my kids can still have a place to hunt. And it's been a productive spot. I mean, it's very productive. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Your kids are, only your kids. And I'm like, I swear to you, like I will not. You will never see me in there other than scouting prior to the season. Yeah, yeah. So it's been fortunate for me that way. Like, so in that instance, field birds, yeah, because it's been very productive in the field. But me personally, put me in the mountains all day long. I'd rather go chase them in the hardwoods than in the field.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that because we're hunting in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we see turkey all the time.
Yeah.
Like where we're at, the birds are there. And there's nothing like, I'm in the deer stand and I hear it's like the leaves are on the ground, everything's crunching.
Oh yeah, crispy and cool.
It's like a war path when you get 20, 30 birds coming through.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing nice about fall. If you spend a lot of time in the woods in the fall with turkeys, you hear so much different vocalization from the hens and jakes. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're more, the goblin's cool in the springtime and the hen talk, but you get into a flock of fall birds and get them calling back to you. I mean, it don't get no better than that. Me personally. I mean,
so what about of all the different calls? Do you have a preference? Like if you had one call?
Nah, I can't.
It's hard.
Yeah, I can't really say that. I can't say that I have one call. Whatever call works that day is what I prefer.
That's the right answer. If there was a test.
I mean, there's been times I've tried 2 different pot calls, different surfaces, different strikers, couldn't get a response, and I pick up a scratch box, and it's like, oh, a little gobble, and I'm like, well, don't answer that, So I just put the pot calls away and go to work with a scratch box.
We just interviewed, another buddy of ours who does a lot of turkey hunting, and we were talking gobblers and hunting turkeys and stuff. And I don't know if this made it to the podcast or if it was just us talking, but he was just saying about, I don't even know the whole story, but this call was like the awfulest call that he thought he was listening to another hunter. He's like, man, that is the awfulest turkey sound that I ever heard.
And it was a hen.
And it was a bird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so you just, what you think they sound like, it might be different with the next bird. The next bird you kill might be sound a little bit different.
Yep. I think a lot of it, like when you're calling to the turkey, you want to give them kind of what they want to hear, and you want to have realism to it.
Yeah.
Cadence. I mean, anybody can go out there and just yelp, 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 yelp on a call. But like I said, my opinion, the less calling I do, the more productive I seem to be.
Yeah.
Now I'll play the waiting game. I don't mind waiting. Like if that bird don't respond to me within a half an hour, I still kind of know he's there, even if he's not gobbling to me. Because most of the time, if he's going away, he's going to gobble eventually.
Sure.
And they'll sneak in on you. I mean, they're being hunted every day of their lives by some kind of predator usually, so they're always cautious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I know. People say, "Oh yeah, they're dumb." Well, they get lucky and kill a couple turkeys. Spend a lot of time in the woods with turkeys. Turkeys ain't dumb.
Yeah, they're scared of everything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're scared of everything, and they're going to respond with caution.
Yep, absolutely. Now, you get lucky. I mean, there's times I've seen turkeys come running 300 yards across the field, full bore, spear swinging back, and they're committed. Like that's their day to die. Like you said earlier, they have it in their mind that that's it.
But once you experience that type of and a lot of guys have done this for a little bit of time. They've had that moment, you know, and it might have been unique to them, but they've had that moment where that bird's coming and he's on a straight line, he's on a rope. I think that shifts something in them.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You get the bit by the bug.
Yeah.
Now you're really getting into it. I know you've had some success, but you know, when it comes to scouting and you know, getting guys like Jason on and just talking turkey and everything, you're really starting to embrace this a little bit more. But you know, from like a scouting perspective, like what kind of tips would you give?
I just look for a lot of scratchings. I'm not one to do a lot of calling pre-season. Like I very rarely ever call the turkeys prior to the season, just because I don't like to do that. That's not me. I'd rather just go listen and let them go about their daily business, and I can pick up enough from that. You know, I look for scratchings. I look for feathers, roost trees. You know, I mean, I'm always eyes on the ground, focusing on tracks and which directions they might be going, what they might be feeding on. You know, there's many things that kind of play a factor in it. But like I said, I'm not one to. For one, I don't like other people knowing I'm in the woods.
Right.
You know, especially when I'm turkey hunting, because there's nothing more frustrating than somebody walking in on you while you're trying to work a turkey. You know, I mean, it happens to everybody, but I'd rather just. I don't like to make a sound until I know I'm in the position that I'm ready to make that sound. You know, and I've learned that the hard way. A lot of years of failures. You know, making a call here, moving over here, and he gobbles back down where I just left. You know, within an hour of me moving. You know, so I've learned. I try to take it as slow and progressively slow as I can take it until I feel comfortable that I'm ready to call and I'm ready to make my approach to that turkey.
The loaded question here: when you're doing some mountain hunting and you're mobile, you know, you say you call and you wait. You know, if you hear a bird, you'll wait more than half an hour. But how is your approach if you're not hearing birds and you're moving around? You walk a mile and you call, wait a half hour, walk another mile. Do you have a structure? Do you have a plan, or you kind of wing it when you're out?
Yeah, I kind of probably just wing it. I mean, like I was telling you the other day, I try to locate as many turkeys as possible. You know, I mean, that way, if, you know, say I'm in the middle of the mountain and I only have so many acres to hunt there, if I'm not hearing turkeys there, I'll leave that spot and go somewhere else. Just, you know, now if I'm like in a national forest or something like that, I'll just, you know, like you said, just walk a certain distance, maybe get a call or two. I mean, a lot of times you strike birds 10 o'clock after than that, you're going to 9 times out of 10 kill that turkey. You got a better chance, I would say.
Yeah.
Because most of the time the hens have already left them.
Yep.
You know, like the other day we went up, he had just won a new 22 rifle. And we were at a NWTF banquet actually, and he won a 22 semi. Well, he wanted to shoot it, so we ran up to my parents' house the next day, and we're walking up towards the woods to set the target up. And I'm like, whoa. And he's like, what, Dad, what? And I'm like, just be quiet. And the neighbor has a turkey as a pet, you know?
Sure. Okay.
And I'm like, man, I know I'm not hearing that turkey. I know I wasn't. Well, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes go by. I'm like trying to be as quiet as I am, putting the target on. And I tell him, I'm like, all right, you're ready, you know, let one fly so we can get this sighted in. Well, no sooner he shoots, bam, I could hear him take off up in the middle of the mountain. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I look at my stepdad, I'm like, Dad, that turkey's lucky, turkey season ain't in. That's it. He probably died today. Yeah. Yeah, there's just something about that. No, I'm not saying it's easy all the time like that, but 9 times out of 10, you run into a turkey, you know. I mean, I've been places where I've walked out through the top of the mountain and have called and didn't get a response. And I come back through an hour or so later and, man, I strike one then. You know, it's like, okay, well, was that turkey just playing head games with me, or was like,
how much
down?
of it's right place, right time, and you know what I mean?
I think a lot of it is,
Yeah.
you know, and their mood, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a long time. Like, I've called the turkeys on the roost. I hear people say, "Well, I called to them on the roost. I want to be the first turkey they hear in the woods." Well, I've done that 9 times out of 10. Them turkeys have gone the other way, you know. So I'm one. I don't really call to them on the roost. I guess in certain situations I would if I know there's no other hens around. But if I got a bunch of hens around, I kind of let them all do their thing, and I want to know which way they're going, or you know, or I already know that because of just being in the woods and patterning them. Um, yeah, I like using the decoys for him. You know,
Oh yeah.
Me personally, I don't like decoys. I've had them spooked too many times, especially in the woods. I mean, I can count on my hand the times that I've had it not work compared to working. You know what I mean? I've had better luck without them in the mountain than I have with them. You know, and then there ain't nothing like seeing a gobbler coming through a open hardwood forest and 75 yards away, he sees your decoy and he runs the other way. You know, it's like,
like
Gotta be frustrated.
if I would have never put it out, you know.
that's what we do. Like I think you said earlier, like we're our own hardest critics.
Oh yeah,
We second guess everything. Like when things don't go according to plan, we second guess everything that we did.
Especially when it comes to me turkey hunting.
Play that what if game, you know, what if I did this or what if I did that.
But like I said, with decoys, I like them for him because it keeps the bird. It kind of gives the bird something to focus on, so that he can be more focused on what he does.
Yeah,
you know.
that's good.
Yeah.
From a I guess new hunter's perspective, somebody getting into turkey hunting, what advice would you give to the whether they're young or whether it's an old guy that like myself? I'm not old, but
I'd say
been
just
hunting a while, but never put my hand to
patience.
it.
I think patience, and overcalling. Like I said, I think a lot of guys call too much. You know, I'm convinced in my head that if I call to that turkey, and not, you always kind of listen because turkeys will fool you. You know, especially like up in a tree, they'll gobble facing that way one time, and then they'll turn around and they'll face you. Well, that throws that sound off to the point where you're like, man, I'm second guessing myself. How far is that turkey? You know, so I don't ever get real excited. Like I said, I don't call to them a lot on the tree. So like I'll kind of wait till I know they're on the ground. And yeah, I have a wing feather, and I'll beat it off my arm to make it sound like it.
A little ruffling, yeah.
It makes the turkey think that a hen's flying out of the tree.
Sure.
And believe it or not, well, actually, when I had my daughter out her first time, that's all I used. I had my hat. I didn't have the wing feather with me.
Yeah.
I took my hat off my head and I went, beat it off my arm. And we could see the turkeys up in the tree. There was 3 of them. Them turkeys sailed, flew right down in the field. And of course, she was only 7 years old, so I had decoys out for her. And they walked up there and like 25 yards away. Yeah, she smacked it.
That's awesome. It's one of those things.
About what? Oh yeah. Well, of course it was like 10 minutes after legal hunting time. I mean, it happened that quick. So I told him, I said, come on, because there was another spot I knew right down the road. Not that I'm greedy, but I thought, well, we got plenty of time. And he's like, no, Dad. He goes, I was happy enough watching my sister shoot a turkey. Oh, so to me, that makes me know that I'm teaching him the right things.
Raising him right.
Yeah, because it didn't have to mean that much that he had to go shoot another turkey or take a chance of getting a turkey when he had just witnessed his sister do it.
Well, that's awesome, Ethan.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was funny because we were in the blind and I had spent countless hours just watching the turkey, I mean, I actually have them gobbling right off the tree the night before she shot him, But I had a 99% plan. No, I don't always work that way, but after watching them for so long.
When you beat the hat,
yeah,
and they fly right down into the field.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like just like you drew it up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So, of course, I don't even remember where I was going with that, but
sharing memories.
Yeah, you can't beat them. But as I was about to say, is there's a lot of these you'll see on video, or you hear someone say, hey, this happened. But when you're in the woods long enough, you see it and you experience it yourself. So it sounds like the amount that you spend in the timber and in the fields, you have these experiences, and it's just awesome just hearing from you.
Oh yeah,
you can just dive into the detail with it. I can see it happening.
Like I said, I mean, I just enjoy just listening to them, watching them. I think wild turkey is like one of the most beautiful animals that ever was created. Just the iridescence in their feathers and just everything about them. I mean, I'm fascinated with everything about wild turkey. I mean, my house is littered with turkey everything. I was
telling him about
if they made turkey feather toilet paper, I would own it.
No more. That's a quote.
I was telling Ron here about the one you got mounted and how it's hanging on the limb.
That's Ethan's.
Sweet. Your bird, huh?
Yeah, that's his. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when he shot that turkey, I knew right away I wanted to get it mounted for him because the first one, we could have mounted it. Yeah. But this one here had some really nice spurs on it. So the taxidermist was actually about 6 miles down the road from where we were hunting at. So I said to him, I said, come on. I said, Daddy will get this mounted for you. So we ran down there and, we showed him some mounts and stuff. And I said, well, how do you want it mounted? And he said, I want it done gobbling on a log, Dad. And I'm like, all right. So I basically put half down on a down payment. And the guy called me up less than a year later or whatever. He said, hey, I got your turkey done. I'm like, cool. We go over, pick it up, just fell in love with it. I thought it was an excellent mount. And I get it home because my plan was I was going to put it above his bed. So when you woke up in the morning, the turkey was roosting right above his head. Well, when I got home, I realized, well, that's a little bigger than I anticipated. That's not going to work in his room anywhere. The way everything was, no matter even if we rearranged, he was going to walk into it or we were or something. So it ended up, I had to move some stuff in the living room, and that's where it ended up. Well, of course, Rebecca wasn't the happiest about it, but I wasn't taking no brand new turkey mount and setting it anywhere else.
Yeah.
So. Oh yeah, he fell asleep on the couch one day, and I took a little water and I drizzled it on him and his hair and stuff. And he wakes up and he's like, Dad, what is that? And I was like, I think that turkey just peed on your head.
Did you believe in me? No, he didn't fall for that. Oh man. Well, that's really these are the things that the memories that you share. Right. You'll remember something like that. Your dad pulling your leg like that. You'll remember that for many years.
Well, he talked about that story on that interview we did in Georgia that the guy asked him about one of his memories, and he was like, I liked watching my dad because he shot one last year with a 410, and we stretched it. I mean, I told him it's either now or you're not getting a shot, and it was probably 52 yards, and he hit him pretty good too. But of course, turkeys, they like to move and take off. Well, as soon as I saw it like making any kind of inkling of getting away, I unzipped the blind, boy, and I beat out across that field. Well, I come back and he's just dying laughing, and I'm like, what's so dang funny? And he's like, you, Dad. He goes, watching you run across that field. I said, well, that turkey wasn't getting away from your dad.
That's something I didn't realize in the bird that I got. Deer, you shoot, hey, wait, give them longer than you need to. You don't want to push them. But turkey, I shot like I'm excited. It's flopping around. The buddies were like, get it.
Yeah.
So, did this run like, am I supposed to be doing this or not? But it's exhilarating. It's quite the rush.
Oh, man, I still love deer hunting, don't get me wrong, but I'd much rather spend it in the woods chasing turkeys than a day of the week.
It's not the same.
Nah.
I mean, it's it's unique to what it is, and I I think, myself, because I really enjoy it. That's why we're sitting here talking turkey, because we do enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like anything else. You get into it and you have a little bit of success, and that itch.
It makes you feel good. Yeah, it really does. I mean,
and you can connect. You're connecting with the outdoors. You're connecting with nature.
Yeah.
It's springtime. It's not freezing cold out.
No.
Like deer seasons,
And
it's cold and
for me, like I like getting other people involved in it too. I mean, I've not just taken him, but I've taken other kids out and gotten them their first turkeys. And then turned around and made a wing bone call out of that turkey for them as a gift.
Very cool.
So it's and then something like that. It's like they'll have that as long as they keep it, and it's like they'll look back on that 20, 25 years from now, whatever, and be like, I might not be around then, but they'll be like, man, I remember Jason taking me out. And I know for a fact they'll remember everything about that hunt. You know what I mean? Like just like you do. Like you kill a big buck, you remember everything about that hunt. Yeah.
You already have plenty of memories that you don't even realize that you got, but there's plenty of stories.
Oh, he tells me stuff, and I'm like, what? I don't remember that. And he's like, yeah, Dad, you remember? And then he'll explain in more detail, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I do remember that.
Well, that's, I mean, we'll sit down and we'll talk. And
stories get mixed up.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be like, this is what had happened. You were there. And, the things that we retain.
Yeah.
It's unique to each of us.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like my father. I was only 16 years old and he died of cancer. He was only 35. But the last deer hunt him and I were on, I mean, I have that etched so hard in my head. It was, back then you were still allowed to shoot 3 inches.
Sure, yeah.
Legal. Anything 3 inches was legal. Well, he had cancer prior to that, lost his left eye. So he had to relearn how to shoot a gun, relearn how to drive, all that, stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember we were sitting in my uncle's blind, still aren't allowed to do them, but we always piled the sticks up around and made like a little hunt blind off the ground. And it was always a hot spot. Like I used to get so mad because my uncle, he'd be done hunting by 8 o'clock every year, already kill a buck. And I'm sitting over there like, man, just 1 year, let me set that spot.
Yeah.
So my dad and I, I think it was probably the first Saturday we went in there, sat down. I'm like 14, maybe, I think it was. And I'm watching these deer come up from the bottom, and he had an old open sight 30-06 pump,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching these deer with his binoculars, and I'm like, Dad, that third one, it's got horns. And he's like, no, it don't. And I said, Dad, I'm telling you, and they're coming closer and closer. Next thing you know, I'm like, shoot, Dad, shoot. Well, he shoots it. It goes down, it's got its head down, buried in the leaves. So we get down there, he can't see no horn. And he's like, oh, man, if this thing don't have horns, he goes, you're dragging it out, blah, blah, blah. And we're way back in the mountain, dude. I mean, I'm talking, I ain't making it out of there till dark 30. Even then, both of us dragging, we weren't making it out till dark 30. So I'm like, Dad, I'm telling you, I said, you either shot the wrong deer or this one has horns. And I'll never forget, like, he picked the head up then, and you could see them one was just barely 3 inches, and the other one was a hair over 3 inches. And just, I remember him turning around and just the expression on his face and how happy he was. Yeah. He picks me up and he's shaking me around, and I'm like, I told you, Dad, before he passed away, I had made a, plaque for it and everything in shop class, and I put the velvet over the horns and everything, and I had a plaque made. Yeah, yep, I still have it. Yeah. I had a brass plaque made that said it did have horns, Dad, love Jason or whatever.
That.
So that was like one of the last things as far as hunting wise I got to do with my father, and like I said, after that I kind of just went on my own because I mean my grandfather still hunted, but I was one I liked to go. Yeah, I liked being more in the mountain. Grandpa was older. Now I still hunted with him, but I was more like a billy goat back then. I wanted to go back to our old spot, and my grandfather couldn't make it that far. But then the older I got, I learned, well, it's just more about spending time with him than it is actually hunting or killing something.
As we get to have different age, the different ages and stuff, like 14 years old, yeah, you wanna harvest that animal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
40 years old, you want to spend the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, we really, appreciate
Oh,
you taking some
absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
We can do this. We can do this probably for hours. Sit
Oh,
here
I'm
and
sure.
tell stories.
Yeah.
It's like, swapping war stories, but I really want to thank you for taking the time to come out, hang out, show us some of this beautiful calls that you have made, and really educate me.
I just wanted to bring a variety and kind of
love
show
it,
you.
man. This
I mean,
is
I
so
got
cool.
stuff that, I got a guy in Nebraska, is a good friend of mine. He's invited me out there too, and me and Ethan both, but once again, time just doesn't work out for me all the time. But he makes what they call a nail call, and it's basically a block of wood, probably about 2 by 3 inches. It's hollowed out, and then he takes an old cut nail, what a cut nail looks like, and he drives it down into the top of that piece of wood. So you have the hollow bottom, the nail on the top, and then you have a piece of stone or corian, and you use that as a striker. And you'd be surprised, like the sound of turkey you get out of this call. I mean, it just it fascinates me. I got calls that are made out of mason jars. They took a mason jar, drilled holes through the bottom of it, put a soundboard in it. The top, they glued slate in one piece and glass in the other, so you can change the surface. You take the lid off, you put your other lid on, and bam, you scratch on that little jelly jar, and there's your turkey call. I mean,
that's cool.
All these calls, why would you use an electronic one, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would. They're illegal anyhow, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, it fascinates me that these call makers, just like this horn. You know what I mean? Like this guy just,
the amount of work that had to go into it.
He makes, who would ever thunk in a million years you would take a horn and turn it into a turkey call?
Well, I don't know who said it. Some old philosopher said the necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And we come up with different things all the time, but you know what you're after, and trial and error.
Yeah.
That's how you get good at this sort of thing.
Yep. Like I said, I mean, I live, eat, sleep, and die turkey. I mean, that's I think about that at work when I'm supposed to be programming a turkey. I'm looking into people's yards, like, is there turkeys out there? Like, I remember a couple weeks ago we went and did a job, and the lady just lost her husband, and we were placing a furnace for her, and she had some old black and white like pencil drawings of turkeys hanging on the wall.
So cool.
And I wanted so bad to ask her, like, hey, would you ever be interested in selling them? That's something I'd be interested in, but I didn't want to because I knew they probably meant something to her through her husband.
Timing.
So I'd asked her about taking pictures of them. She was like, kind of looked at me weird, and she was like,
little did she know.
Yeah, like, go ahead and take pictures. And I told her that, I'm like, I don't mean to like be like that. I said, but I'm made up with turkey. Like that's all I think about is turkey.
Well, you put a high value on it.
Oh yeah.
She maybe doesn't have the same perspective or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But these are the things like hunting and the outdoors, and getting the next generation involved, and that sort of like passing on what we know to somebody else.
Yep.
That's really what matters.
And like,
I put high value on
say we go yard sailing or flea marketers, I'm always looking for calls. Always. I mean, there's usually not a time I've gone to the flea market and I haven't found something, like last summer I was down there and there was a company out of Newville. It was called Funks.
Okay.
They make it's just like a little wooden block with a little piece of slate, and the striker itself kind of set in a plastic thing, and you just kind of pull it back, and it makes turkey sound. But I just rooting through these boxes, I found one in the original box with the original paper. It was like brand new, and I got it pretty dirt cheap, which I already have a couple of them. I just didn't have all the box, and because like as collectors, they look for things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Packaging, box. I mean, I know a guy that has some calls that, I mean, they're really valuable. Like I was mentioning earlier about Charles Jordan. He was the innovator of them, the Jordan style call that I was talking about. This here with the river cane and stuff. So imagine getting to hold the first one of them that was ever made. I got to play it. Like when we were in Georgia, the guy, I mean, he's literally has his house built around his call collection. I mean, it's all like a humidor, humidity controlled, securities, lights. I mean, you would think, like
he really got the itch.
Yeah, like and he and there's a lot of guys like that. I mean, there's people don't realize there's people out there, man, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of turkey calls. Just sitting on gold mines in a way, you know what I mean? Like things you'll never be able to get again because either the call maker died or they're not producing them anymore, and some of these old things, I mean, even like some of these production calls, I don't know if you had watched, they just, Mossy Oak put out a new thing about these two older gentlemen. Basically, they're like probably the two oldest living turkey hunters that have been around since when turkeys really weren't around. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have to watch it. I mean, it's really a touching, history lesson.
Well, that's like it's being a student. Being a student of the bird, being a student of the sport. Knowing the history of it, like that sort of stuff interests us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then the value, like you were talking about, the value of not just the calls, but I mean hunting gear and guns.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
like, everything has a value on it.
Yep.
And I think like that widow you were talking about, like she might not have placed the same value on something that a guy like you or me would.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Some people are just, they have no idea what us sportsmen invest.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Look at it like we invest in this stuff.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's people that say I'm crazy for the money I have spent on turkey calls. But hey, I'm not doing drinking, I don't do drugs, you know what I mean? Like I could be spending it on a lot worse things, like
correct.
I mean, I still pay my bills, I'm not living out of a garbage can. So I mean, it's just I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated, and it's like I've met call makers like Marlon Watkins, I've gone to his house. Ethan and I've gone to his house out in Ohio. He invited us out. We jumped in the truck, me and Ethan and Mike, took a 4-hour road trip out there, went through his, like he guides people sometimes in the fall and things. So he has like a shop, and then above it, he has like a little cabin, you would consider it, on top of his garage. I mean, you walk up there, there's vintage calls, vintage pictures, awards of things he's won, and then you get downstairs and you just sit and you interact with the call maker. It's like I enjoy that. Like this guy here, this Ralph Permar, he's from Pennsylvania too. I have plans, me and Ethan this summer, we're gonna go down and spend a day with him. Just ride down. He's down past Kutztown.
Okay.
Probably about an hour and a half or 45 minutes from us. But I talked to him down in Georgia, and I said, hey, would you mind if I come down and just hung out and visited, picked their brain? I enjoy that, like anything history wise. I'm always reading about it. I'm actually through all this. I've met some of the probably best collectors in the country. As far as literature, like
friendships too.
Yeah, I mean, I know guys that have some books and paperworks that you'll never see them ever again. Like it's like it just fascinates me. Even though they have that stuff, to know that part of history is still being
It exists.
Yeah, like being held on to, and people still have that passion for what our ancestors did to help keep the population going, and making it grow. You know.
Yeah, so I would say like what's really important to us is passing that information along, right?
Yeah.
So like whatever it is that I got in my skill set, I want to, I'll share it with Brady or share it with Ethan or share it with the next guy,
Yep.
And you're doing that for us here today.
Yeah. Well,
you're bringing your the wealth of knowledge that you've accrued over your years.
Yeah.
And you're not just for us, but for our listeners and our audience. And so, I really, really appreciate you making the time to come out. I'm glad you guys connected.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because, whenever Ethan was telling me about it, I knew in my heart, like, I knew I could just feel a passion for it from him, so that's why I wanted to do something special with him. And Mike's a real good friend of mine. He's very well-known call maker. I mean, he probably has more awards in Grand Nationals than any other call maker there as far as the hunting class calls.
Right.
Because as you can see, he makes such a variety, and he's one of those guys that until he finds the turkey that he wants out of that call, he's not going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
Perfection. I mean, he is
passionate about what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I couldn't be more thankful, to bump into you and get to know you. And, when you were saying about when they were donating calls to you to, get towards Ethan, how you felt like, why are you doing this to me? I want to get back. Like that picture, my face is red. Like,
yeah, I know.
I was like caught off guard a little bit. It was awesome.
No, that made my day.
Yeah,
and it made Ethan happy, even Mike, I mean, I know I'm really close with Mike, and, we talk about you as far as, because I told him the other day, I said, yeah, Brady asked about maybe doing a podcast, and he's like, oh, that'd be really cool, but it's just getting into the collecting and the turkey hunting, beaver part of it.
Sure.
Like it's just opened so many doors. I've met so many great people. I mean,
that's
some
the
of
important stuff.
Some of the best artists, like Melissa Ball, she does feather paintings. She lives up towards Waynesboro. Okay. Well, a couple years, it's been a good many years ago, but I found out about her, seen some of her artwork. I'm like, man, I got to own some of this, Yeah. So I called her up, ordered some stuff, and she's like, well, instead of shipping it and saving you or the causing the shipping, she's like, why don't you just come up and pick them up? And I'm like, oh, heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we jump in the vehicle and off to her house we go, and it's just like you meet these people, and it's like it's like you've known them your whole life, like.
I do. I know exactly what you mean, because we're brought up the same way.
Yep.
With an appreciation.
Yep.
For the thing we have a passion for.
Yep. Like last past year, I was telling Brady, I think I took a bunch of deer jerk or bologna down there, and I mean we had elk bologna, we had like 5 or 6 different kinds of deer bologna mixed with cheese. Just, me and Mike and my buddy Tony, who's another award-winning call maker. From down around Kutztown area. He makes wing bones and Jordans, and he actually just this past year won the Charles Jordan Award with the best wing bone Jordan call in Nashville. That's so awesome. You're competing against some of the best in the whole country, and to win stuff like that. I mean, them guys, they don't mess around. They're putting out the best turkey in their ear, for them judges to determine who got the best sounding turkey in their ears, So they put their heart and soul into it,
Love it.
Great products turn out that way when you put all the effort in and you reproduce the values that you have towards it.
Oh yeah. And I'm fortunate, like I said, with Mike, because I mean, I know he's, you would call him today and be like, hey Mike, I met Jason Rohrer. He was telling me about your box calls. I'd love to get a box call from you. 9 times out of 10, with the way he's so busy, he's probably going to tell you, okay, I'll put you on the list. It might be 3 to 4 years. I mean, I've seen his list. It's they're backed up, like, and you can only build so many turkey calls,
Right.
So, I'm fortunate because I get to hang out with him. I go places that he goes to sell calls, so I get kind of like first dibs at them. You know what I mean? Now, there's stuff that I don't get, but 9 times out of 10, if I go to his house and I'm like, "Hey man, I like that," All right, well, money talks,
It's good. I know it, brother. Yeah.
Because like when I first started buying a lot of his stuff, I remember there was times I'd post pictures on Facebook and people would be like, "Hey man, I was on his list for 2 years," And I always tell him, I'm like, "Look, I go to where he goes." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we used to, well, we still do. They canceled it last year, but there's a place up in New York called Turkey Trot Acres, and they have a small thing in the summer. It's just a secluded little cabin in the wood. The guy, he does a lot of fall guiding with dogs. That's how they got started years ago. Really nice couple, Pete and Sherry Claire, but they do like brick fired pizzas for you all day long.
Cool.
They'll do like pit roast beef, and all it is just a bunch of guys like us. We get together. There's a couple, 7 to 10 call makers that show up and sell calls, and we just stand around and talk turkey and play calls and socialize. You know what I mean? But
it's running the same circles.
Yeah, it's like,
right?
Like going to Georgia.
Circles.
It's like that trip there. Now, I've never been to Nashville. I'd like to go there sometime. Just because there's people that I've communicated with through Facebook and have become real close with that I've never gotten to hug or shake their hand or things like that, just because it hasn't ever worked out. But I have met a lot of real nice people down in Georgia. I mean, like Lamar Williams, who's from Florida. He's another one that's like Mike. Like his calls are valuable. It's hard to get on his list. Not hard to get on his list, but it's going to take you a little while to get on his list. Guys like Marlon Watkins. I mean, he's built calls for Zinc. And just he has his own design to his own box call, and to be able to go to his house and we could jump in his John Deere buggy and he takes us all around his property and he shows us his duck ponds and just enjoy, just enjoyed it. I mean, there's to me, there's nothing. And then to spend that time with Ethan, because I mean, I know some of the things him and I have done together, he's not ever going to forget.
Great. More of the memories that we highlighted.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was great. Glad we could capture this moment, and
I enjoyed it.
I think we could be here, another 3 days.
We'll have to stay, to stay connected.
It's
just like anything else, you network, you meet people that you rub elbows with and stuff. And this has been really good. We'll probably process all the information here, and it'll probably be turkey season until we post this. But we'll let you know. We'll send you the link so you can listen to it.
That'd be cool.
I just want to thank you. Really,
not a problem. I'm thankful you guys had me here. I was excited all day about it.
So are we.
I got home. I'm like, man, I want to pack some calls. Because at first I didn't know, and I thought, no, I'd take them along.
I'm glad you did.
Just because a lot of people don't get to see things like that. There's so many variations of calls, and just.
We'll get some pictures of these, and post them, and get you like credit for who made these things. But this has been a real education for me. So
I appreciate it. I mean, I'm no expert, but I do. I enjoy talking about it. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time around a lot of good people that has helped me because back in the day, a lot of guys were hush hush. I mean, they didn't talk a lot about what calls they were using or where turkeys were at and things like that. And you still have guys like that.
Sure.
I'm kind of that way. I mean,
you're the expert in the room tonight.
I don't, I don't go around saying, "Oh yeah, man, well I just seen 5 longbeards down here off line 944." I might tell the kids that, but I don't tell. I don't tell too many people that.
Yeah, we tell a lot of people, Ethan.
Smart man.
All right. Well, listen. Thanks again for tuning in to Tracks and Tackle. You can find us on social media pages. You can find us on YouTube, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We do appreciate Jason Rohrer for stopping in tonight, and his son Ethan for hanging out and talking turkey with us. We'll get this process posted. And until next time, we just encourage everybody listening to stay wild.